Oh, hi, Mark. Okay, well, we knew that I was nerdy, but I don't think we've ever really explored the true scope of my nerddom, my nerdacity, if you will. Um, on this channel, we primarily discuss horror movies, and that's not going anywhere. That's staying around. I want to make it clear this is still primarily a horror movie channel. But right now, something that I'm really into is comic books. I was really into comics when I was in like junior high and early high school. And when I say I was into comics, I was into collecting them, not so much into reading them. Um, However, recently I've been getting into reading and I still collect them. I still have my original comic collection from when I was a kid. And it's just growing now, and I'm thinking of new ways. We're thinking of new ways of expanding that collection in more meaningful ways, because I don't. Ow! You stepped on my toe. All right, go on. Get out of here. Go on. Just go lay down. Bazzer, go lay down. He stepped on my toe. Nope. Go lay down. I don't want to hear it. We can hang out later. We're still friends. Get out of my face. Anyway, so I'm thinking of ways to expand that collection in more meaningful ways, because I don't just want to collect random comic books, which is what I've done for a long period of time. You don't listen very well, do you? No, you don't. Uh, anyway, it's what I did for a long time. I just kind of collected whatever I saw. And, I mean, it's not that I was buying anything and everything, but it was more so that I was just like looking through long boxes at antique stores and comic book shops, and I was just kind of pulling out, I like this superhero. Bowser, no. And it was just like, I like this superhero. And then that, that interest in that hero was rather short-lived, or didn't really go anywhere for me. You know, like I have a lot of just like single issues from random superheroes or anti-heroes. And, okay, buddy. Okay. Now he's laying down. We tucked him to bed. Tucked him to beddy bye. Now maybe I can stay on a train of thought. That was getting really frustrating to me. So I ended up with a lot of just kind of one-offs that I'll never collect. Like, I have US Agent #1. I'm never gonna go anywhere with that. I don't give a singular fuck about US Agent. I was just like, that's a cool character design. Who cares, bud? So instead of just frolicking amok, I recently decided, like, okay, well, there are like specific characters that I care a lot about. That's kind of what this video is going to be about. I do want to show you a few things first, though, because I understand this is a horror channel, and if you are one of my viewers that actually watches my videos, the whole 2.5 of them, I figure I'll give you a little something to at least look at. I can't talk about these that much, unfortunately, because I don't really read horror comics. Funny enough, as much as I love horror movies, horror comics have never been my thing. I really actually kind of don't like them, to be honest with you. Like, they're just, I don't know what it is, man. It rubs me the wrong way that, like, horror is in comic book form. There's something weird about that. And I don't mean like the obvious weird thing that's like, well, comics are kind of like a kid's thing. and it's horror, because I don't care, dude. I like violent comic books, but I like violent comic books about superheroes and anti-heroes. I don't like horror. But here we do have some horror comics. I actually have one that I forgot to grab when I was looking through my comics earlier. Dr. Herbert West Re-Animator. That's kind of cool. It's got kind of a cool cover art. I think that's a Dark Horse book. Speaking of Dark Horse, I think that's what most of these are Dark Horse. We have Predator number 2 and number 3. Those are pretty cool. I think I have read these and I enjoyed them. It's just not what I'm into right now, I should say. Yeah, I like Predator. And actually I have quite a few Predator comics. Predator versus Judge Dredd. I just thought that artwork was really cool. That's another thing I used to do a lot. I used to collect artworks that I just thought were awesome, like cover arts. I used to buy comics based on cover art, and I thought that cover art was very cool. It's I mean, I literally just showed it to you, so I'm sure you know. But it's Predator dressed as Judge Dredd, and he's doing the thing that predators can do with their voice or whatever that is, and he's mimicking Judge Dredd. The little talk bubble right there says, "I am the law." I thought that was very cool. And then this one actually kind of tickles my personal fancy because it is Batman versus the Predator. Batman, in case you don't know, you probably don't, because I don't talk about Batman at all on this channel, because this is a horror thing, but Batman is my favorite character of all time, bar none. Batman is everything to me. Like, you don't understand how nerdy I am about Batman. I have like a comic book stand over there that holds all my comic books. It is Batman themed. My dad made it for me, I think, for Christmas when I was like 15 or 16. But it's got like bat symbols. It says DC on the drawers, and then it has 10 posters of Detective Comics number 27 and Batman number 1 on either end of that table, drawer, whatever you want to call it, comic book stand. And it's that's very cool. But then, like, I have the Dark Knight trilogy posters up behind the TV. The original idea was that I was going to do the Gates of Hell posters up there from Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. That fell through, unfortunately, because I couldn't find all the Gates of Hell posters in the same size. So it would have just been a bunch of random sized posters up there. And I was like, fuck that, I need a little bit of uniformity. And so we have the Dark Knight trilogy up there. As well as, I mean, I own tons of Batmobiles. I have a few different versions of Tim Burton's Batmobile, which is my favorite Batmobile of all time. And I own tons of copies of the movies. I'm a huge Batman nerd. So that one was kind of cool to me. And then this is probably my favorite horror comic I own, Beyond the Grave, what is it? Number 9. Kind of an obscure little book, but it's very Tales from the Crypt-esque. Let's see, it was published in 1983. But yeah, it's very Tales from the Crypt-esque, which is why I like it. Still a horror comic though, so it's not my favorite, but it is cool. And then we have this. I actually kind of have a funny little story about this comic. Alien 3, number 3 of 3 from Dark Horse Comics. This was a 3-issue miniseries from Dark Horse that they did based on the Alien 3 movie. I hadn't even seen Alien 3 at the time. I just saw xenomorphs in comic books. That's awesome, dude. And I went to this antique store that's no longer around. Can't imagine why. And I saw this, and it was like $15, dude. And I took it up to the lady. I was a teenager at the time, by the way, but I wasn't no schmuck. I was like 15 or 16, and I brought it up there, and I'm like, so you got it listed for like, it was like $10 or $15. And I was like, that's a little steep. I knew the comic book. I knew it wasn't worth that. And I was like, I can give you like a few bucks for it, or I only had, I think it was like $5. I offered her $5, which is more than the comic book was worth still. And she was like, well, it's posted at $10. You can't have it for $5. I mean, what do you think this is? And she was very snotty about it. And I was like, okay, well, tell you what, I'll just leave this here. I don't need it that bad. I don't think it's that cool. It's just like, I wanted a comic book, and I'm here where the comic books are. But there's another antique store down the street that has like a whole comic book vendor. I'm going to just go over there and buy some reasonably priced comics. And she ended up stopping me before I walked out the door, and she handed me the comic book, and she goes, just take it. She told me to just take the comic. I think she knew that she was being a bit fucking ridiculous, and she just handed me the comic book because I was pissed off. She copped an attitude with me, so I copped a bit of one back and gave that energy like, I'm not coming back here. So yeah, she just gave that comic book to me, and I got to keep my money. And then this is maybe one of my favorite horror comics I own, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know if you guys can even see that. Yeah, it's kind of dark and dingy, but it's got a neat cover art. I like A Nightmare on Elm Street. I like it better than pretty much every other property that I have a comic book of. Although, also worth mentioning, I have a Jason versus Leatherface comic book, and I forgot to pull that out as well, but that is very cool. The cover art on that is insane, ridiculous. It's like a dark blue background, and then Leatherface has his chainsaw above his head like that, and Jason's coming down like this, and Jason has this crazy looking, almost futuristic hockey mask, like almost like a Casey Jones thing going on. It's very cool. But then I want to talk about some stuff that I'm actively collecting, and some stuff that I've been reading, I suppose. So I have kind of made it a mission to well, first of all, I have like mini-series that I want to collect, and those are kind of my favorite things to collect because there's not just a ton of them. It's just like, hey, there are 4 issues. Like recently I came upon a comic called The Demon, and I knew of The Demon. For those of you who are unacquainted with DC Comics or comic books in general, which I can't imagine there are very many people watching that don't care about comic books, especially 13 minutes into the video. But I came upon number 4 in a 4-issue miniseries of a character called The Demon. Once again, sorry, I got sidetracked, but The Demon is a sort of anti-hero in DC Comics, who is an actual literal demon. His demon name is Etrigan, and I don't know if it's in every interpretation of the character, but in every interpretation that I've ever seen, I think, he speaks in rhyme, which is very strange, but it's kind of cool. It gives him just like a little quirk. And so now I'm on the lookout for the first 3 books of that series. But, and then on top of that, I have, oh yeah, I was going to talk about my personal taste in comic books. That's right. I don't know how I totally spaced that. So I told you that I'm big on superheroes and anti-heroes. Essentially, I like my comics either very dark and very edgy superhero stuff, like super violent and crazy, or I like very cheesy. And I don't love a ton of in between. And I mean, even like the tiniest bit of in between. It's also worth mentioning that I enjoy single characters. I'm not a big fan of teams. I really don't like X-Men. I don't collect X-Men for shit. I have a lot of X-Men because when I was a kid and I was into comics, my parents would just buy me any comic book with a superhero on it for Christmases and birthdays and things like that. And but I've never ever been into X-Men whatsoever. I like Wolverine. I do like Wolverine. I do actually intend on collecting the entirety of Savage Wolverine. Because I have a few comics from that run right now, and I really enjoy the ones that I do have. Savage Wolverine number 12, I think it was like my second comic book that I ever acquired as a kid, so it kind of holds a special place in my heart for sure. But yeah, even just like the in between tonally, it doesn't work a ton for me. Like, I know I just said I don't really like teams, but like Fantastic Four, it does not hit very hard for me, even in terms of its tone. Even though it is cheesy, it isn't like quite cheesy enough. But then it's also really easy to get too cheesy. It ain't easy being cheesy. What can I say? And it's a very fine, delicate balance with cheesiness that I think they have to strike, because I love like the cheesiness of 1960s Batman. When I'm reading Silver Age Batman, I cannot help but read it in Adam West's voice in my head. I can't help but do that. Just like pretty much everything after the Silver Age, my head immediately goes into Kevin Conroy, and Batman is just Kevin Conroy. But you know, Silver Age Batman is great. I'm getting into Thor, because Thor, in my opinion, the Mighty Thor is like the perfect amount of cheese for me. And actually, I'll just take this opportunity to talk about the Thor comic I was going to hold up, which is my copy of the Mighty Thor 226. Yeah, 226. This isn't a key issue or anything, but I actually ended up reading this comic. I was going through my comic books a while back. This was when I was first starting to get back into comic books. I was just going through the drawers, and I hadn't gone through them in a very, very long time. A very long time. I haven't touched comic books in a long time, and I started going through them again, and I saw this, and I thought that it was an interesting premise. And essentially it's, I don't remember how I learned the premise, whether I looked it up on Google or whatever I did, or maybe I just dug the cover art and I read it, because you know I do that sometimes when I'm digging through my comics. But essentially it's part of a story arc where Galactus has to enlist the help of Thor and Hercules to defeat Ego the Living Planet. I thought that was really cool. And so now I'm interested in collecting the whole story arc. And actually, I have been collecting a lot of the Mighty Thor since I got back into comic books and comic book collecting. I bought like 4 or 5 issues of the Mighty Thor day before yesterday. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And to me, like I said, the Mighty Thor is just like the perfect level of cheesy. I love the way he speaks. Thou art, doth mother know you weareth her drapes? That was an Iron Man quote from the Avengers, but I like Thor a lot. And then another thing that I've decided recently is that I want to have the most autistic knowledge base of Batman that any man could hope to have. And I don't expect to actually be able to achieve that. Because there are books that I'll never be able to buy. I mean, just hands down, I'm never, ever, ever owning a Detective Comics number 27. I'm never owning a Detective Comics number 38. Probably most Golden Age Batman. I think I will be lucky if I ever get one or two Golden Age Detective Comics or Batman comics in my entire life. And so I accept that. And there's a lot of Silver Age stuff that I'll never own as well. However, I want to, the last 2 days, I have been going through eBay and my notes app, and I've just been making notes. Every single issue of Detective Comics, I think I have from like 480 to 881 logged. And I've just gone through, and the issues that don't have anything super special that happen are just the number is written down and I move on. And then the issues that are like first appearances, like the first appearance of Anarchy. I have the second appearance of Anarchy right down there staring at me in my face balls. But the first appearance of Anarchy, the book right before that in Detective Comics, I have noted right next to it that it is the first appearance of Anarchy. And so I can kind of just look at those more so as reference to let me know if I'm going to be paying more for it, if I'm seeking out that specific book. And then the ones that I own, I've also written down and listed under like already own. So I have been a busy beaver, as I don't know, someone would probably say, in chronicling that entire experience. And then I also want to go through and do the same thing for Batman. I want to go through and just chronicle all of the issues of the original Batman series before the New 52 reset the DC universe, and try and collect absolutely all of them that I possibly can. Huh, Quinny? No, Quinny winners. Yeah. Yeah. We want all the Batmans. We do. So yeah, I love Batman. And speaking of loving Batman, my fiance, the coolest fiance, for my birthday, got me a couple of trade paperbacks. If you're unfamiliar with the term trade paperback, a trade paperback is essentially which I was unfamiliar with the term trade paperback. I thought that these were called omnibuses or compendiums prior to now. Now I actually know an omnibus or a compendium is a large hardcover compilation of like 100 comics, or like it's usually like a very large number of comic books, whereas a trade paperback is a smaller compilation of them. And I got Absolute Batman. It comes in paperback form, and it's I think this one's 6 issues. There's 6 issues of volume. And I got Absolute Batman Volume 1, and then she also got me Absolute Batman Volume 2 for my birthday. And I read through Absolute Batman Volume 1. I can tell you right now, I am going to own the rest of those trade paperbacks. Probably not the entire individual comic book run, though. That's not worth it. At this point, Absolute Batman number 1, by the way, is ridiculous expensive. Like, if you go through and get the individual comic books, you're gonna be spending a lot of money, and I don't want to do that. So I'll just get the trade paperbacks, and that's what I'm gonna do for a lot of my stuff. I'll get trade paperbacks, omnibuses. I don't care. Especially like I said, I will never have a bunch of Golden Age Detective Comics or Golden Age Batman. So that's probably how I'm going to acquire them, is I'll buy old like omnibuses, which I have seen some omnibus collections of Golden Age Detective Comics, Golden Age Batman for like $100 or so. not that bad of a deal when you really consider that it's like this giant thing that compiles a ton. But anyway, Absolute Batman is awesome, dude. It is the perfect example of edginess that I was talking about. And I love it so much. And then the last comic book that I'm going to talk about, because I have bored you far enough, my good sirs, and potentially madams, but probably not, because I think that Quinny's the only madam that tunes into this channel, and it's because she has no choice. Oh, honey. Yeah, you got no choice at all. Gotta sit up here with Dad. But the last comic book that I am going to talk about, because the video's gone on long enough, and it's not a comic book channel. If anyone watched to this point in the video, I appreciate that. Let me know if you do like the comic book thing. Maybe we can talk about comic books more often. I don't care. But, Vigilante. So, I just showed number 1. I have a fuck ton of Vigilante. I am a very big Vigilante fan, and it pissed me off so bad. So I got into Vigilante when I was a teenager, and this was before really any interpretation of Vigilante had been on the screen. The only one that I know of was Injustice League Unlimited and the Justice League cartoon from the early 2000s. In both of those, I think in both of them anyway, I know he was in Unlimited, there was the Cowboy Vigilante, which, funny enough, I'm collecting a mini-series of the Cowboy Vigilante. I don't even know his name. I think it's Greg something, Greg Saunders. And that's City Lights Prairie Justice is what that miniseries is called. I'm like one short of having the whole 4-issue set. But anyway, it pissed me off so bad. Actually, I've been burned 2 times with this character. First time was in Arrow, when they were like, I remember the hype that coursed through my body. I remember, bud, when the episodes of Arrow were coming out that were introducing Adrian Chase, the Vigilante, into the live-action mythos of the CW. Gosh darn it, it was hype to me then. I don't care that it's a soap opera about a superhero. I like bows and arrows and shit. And, yeah, they introduced Adrian Chase, the Vigilante, in there. And it turns out that it's not the Vigilante at all. I'm sorry that I spoiled that for you. The show's fucking old as the Egyptian pyramids. Get out of my face with that. But, it is revealed it's not even Adrian Chase. That was never the Vigilante. This was a ploy that some evil guy fucking launched. My God, dude. My God. Way to blow what could have been a really cool TV show. Had they made a whole dedicated Vigilante TV show with Adrian Chase as the Vigilante, do you have any idea how much of that I would have watched? I'd still be watching it to this day. I would have never stopped watching it. Like, I would have grown roots to my couch because of the fact that I would have just never got off it again. I would smell like stale balls and Dorito dust, and I'd just be like encrusted with fried chicken crumbs that have like morphed me to the couch, that melted my legs because of all the times that I don't know why I'm going so deep into that. I would have watched it a lot, is what I'm trying to say. And then the second time it burned me was with Peacemaker. Brother. First of all, Peacemaker as a character is way overblown. Why do people love that so much? I watched a few episodes of the TV show. It was fine. Peacemaker as a character is dorky as shit, and maybe that's what people like about him, but it's just like a bunch of fucking stupid jokes, like really dumb jokes. Like actually really stupid. And then they introduce Adrian Chase, the vigilante, once again. The guy that they picked to play the vigilante looks nothing like Adrian Chase in the comics. Nothing at all. And he behaves nothing like Adrian Chase in the comics. You don't understand, okay? This is very cheesy. Okay, the 80s vigilante run is extremely cheesy. For the record, I know that Adrian Chase isn't the vigilante in all of these comics. He is the main vigilante in the comics, though. He bounces back and forth between it. But he's the main character that I am interested in. He's the one, like, every vigilante comic I've ever read has been Adrian Chase. I intend on going through the entire 50-issue series once I have them all collected, which I am actively trying to do, going from comic book store to comic book store, antique store to antique store, and just seeking all of them out that I can with a list of books that I'm missing. But in any case, the tone from the comics to the TV show, the Peacemaker TV show, where Vigilante is prominently featured, is drastically different. How they took this character and they went, oh my god, I know, dude. We'll make him Deadpool. Let's make him Deadpool, but he's mortal and he's mentally ill. Well, Deadpool is mentally ill, but like we'll just do like a regular mental illness thing with him where he's like kind of suicidal. Which, by the way, that fits. That specific part fits. There's probably not like a more mentally unstable person in comic books than Adrian Chase. The 50-issue miniseries ends with him blowing his own noggin off. Like he is a very unstable character. But it's not played for a joke. This was a serious series, and it was cheesy. He drove around on a red motorcycle, and he had nunchucks, and he wore skin-tight spandex and ski goggles. Like, it was cheesy, but it was never played for a joke in the comics, and I loved that. I loved that it had this old school grit about it, but it was still, like, there was still some fun to be had because he's, you know, he's like a dude in spandex and he's busting out karate moves, smacking guys with nunchucks. That's a lot of fun. But to take that character who is this fantastic, tortured character, just a very tormented guy who is he has this constant struggle about whether what he's doing is right or not, and he struggles with like times he's accidentally hurt police officers and like all of that. Like it's so good in the comics, and then you just make him, you play his mental illness and suicidality as a joke in the show. It's horrible. And I understand that's a comedy show, but I have no interest in it. It pisses me off that they fucked his character up so bad. And when are we ever going to get Vigilante? I need Vigilante. I need it in my veins right now. And I have a fucking awesome idea for a video game, by the way, which you're going to be subjected to right now, because if you watch 34 minutes into this video, fuck you, brother, you got nothing else going on. Listen to my pitch for this video game that's never going to happen, but would be super sick. Okay, so imagine a vigilante video game. Can you imagine it? Are you picturing it? Are you pondering it in your little think bubble up there? See what I did? It's a comic book video? Yeah, okay. So it's a vigilante video game, open world style, sort of like the Arkham games, but really it's more similar to Ultimate Spider-Man for the PlayStation 2 in both gameplay as well as visuals. So you have those great cel-shaded visuals that make it look like kind of an old school comic book, and you get to drive around on his motorcycle, and you get like great martial arts themed combat with nunchucks and hand-to-hand combat. the occasional knife combat or something, you would have like third person shooting as well, but just like intertwined in there. There would be times where it's more intelligent to use your revolver. There are times where it's more intelligent to just take on this big group of guys with your nunchucks and stuff like that, kind of like an Arkham game. Except you don't get nunchucks in the Arkham games. And at certain points in the game, the Teen Titans would come after you. Because Adrian Chase is a vigilante. He's not a superhero. Important distinction to make. So the Teen Titans would come after you. And you would have to escape the Teen Titans. You never kill any of the Teen Titans. You never hurt any of the Teen Titans. Well, you could hurt them. You beat them up and run away. But like those would be like your boss fights. Would be like the Teen Titans coming after you. And then I think the last boss fight should be Batman, because in Vigilante number 47, Batman crosses over and he tries to hunt down Adrian Chase. It's so cool, and that idea is really awesome. I love it so much. I know I'm kind of kissing my own ass here, but look, when you got ideas that gosh darn wonderful, that gallant. I don't even know what gallant means, but I'll bet that idea is gallant, brother. I might have made that word up. I probably did. Okay, anyway, I like Vigilante. That was a very long tangent. I've been recording this video for a very long time. Before I go, I'm going to make a brief mention of one more comic book. I don't suppose anyone's still listening by now. Anyway, I read Miracle Man #1 not too long ago, and I was so incredibly uninterested the first half of it, because the first half of it is like a flashback to old... I don't know if old Miracle Man comics were really a thing, or if it was like a joke, or not like a joke, but like it's a backstory where it's written like a Silver Age comic book. The storyline plays out mostly like a Silver Age comic book. Then you get to something dark that happens, and then the second half of the story is modern age Miracle Man. And I had no interest in this comic book, really. I have no interest in the character of Miracle Man, but the second half of that comic book is written so well, I actually want to go and collect that entire Miracle Man run just so I can read it, because it is written so well. The words, the descriptions, everything. It's a really great piece of writing. Okay. I guess that was a recommendation, is why I included that. I will catch you guys on the next one. Later.